welcome, dear listener. I invite you to get comfortable, relax your mind, and prepare for a long, drawn-out tale that may seem a touch boring, yet carries with it a certain charm. As we embark on this journey through the annals of history, perhaps you might consider subscribing to this channel should you wish to drift into more stories like this. Let us now drift back to a time long before our own, where bustling towns and tranquil countryside blended seamlessly. The medieval market, a remarkable social and economic hub, thrived between the 11th and 15th centuries. These markets were not merely venues for trading goods. They were vibrant gatherings of communities. Merchants from distant lands would haul their wares, exotic spices, colorful fabrics, and tantalizing treats, transforming cobblestone streets into lively avenues of commerce. Every week, villagers eagerly anticipated the arrival of the market day. The scent of fresh bread and fruits filled the air, mingling with the sounds of merchants calling out their prices. Families would journey for miles, not only to procure supplies, but to engage in the social fabric of their lives. The medieval market was far more than a place of exchange. It was the heart of the village where stories were shared and relationships nurtured amid the clamor. As the sun rose, illuminating the tapestry of humanity gathered there, merchants set up their stalls with great care. Canvas tents sprang up like mushrooms after a rain, each one brimming with items of interest. Talk of the latest happenings in the realm echoed between stalls, where the intricate dance of barter began in earnest. Coins clinked as purchases were made, a rhythm that underscored this lively tableau. The excitement of the marketplace would linger for days afterward, weaving itself into the fabric of daily life. Each market was a unique expression of local culture and economy, marked by the goods that could be found therein. The eclectic mix of produce varied by season, each offering a kaleidoscope of colors and textures for eager hands. As the day wore on, the sounds of laughter and haggling intertwined, creating a symphony of communal existence. And yet, amid all the joviality, there existed something more: the queue. A queue that would grow longer as time went on, standing as a testament to the intricacies of demand, desire, and the patience required in such times. The medieval market was painstakingly designed with numerous stalls arranged in a grid-like pattern, facilitating a systematic flow of foot traffic among the various vendors. Each stall, typically constructed of wood and thatch, measured approximately 6 feet in width and extended a depth of 3 feet, providing just enough space for the merchants to display their wares, which were often organized in neat rows or layered upon makeshift tables. The ground beneath was often a mixture of compact earth and cobblestones, laid in a haphazard fashion that allowed for adequate drainage of rainwater, though it was far from uniform. A thorough examination of the layout reveals that most marketplaces often prioritized convenience for customers, with the most popular stalls situated strategically near the entrance, effectively drawing attention as soon as patrons entered. Items for sale ranged from fresh produce, often displayed in wicker baskets, to textiles hanging from wooden frames, fluttering slightly in the breeze. The pathways were typically about 4 feet wide, allowing for 2 individuals to pass each other comfortably. Although on busy market days, this space became congested. On special occasions, the layout expanded to accommodate larger crowds, utilizing adjacent open fields or public squares, which further complicated pedestrian flow and led to the potential formation of lines, albeit irregular and sometimes chaotic. The medieval market is characterized by a diverse array of goods that reflect the agricultural, artisanal, and mercantile efforts of the time. At its core, one may find staple food items such as grains, vegetables, and fruits, typically sourced from local farms and brought in for sale. Wheat and barley stand out as the most commonly traded grains, accompanied by an assortment of legumes like peas and lentils. In the produce section, vendors display roots such as turnips and carrots, alongside leafy greens, including cabbages and herbs, offering a colorful yet mundane array of choices. Beyond foodstuffs, the market hosts a multitude of goods produced by local artisans. These items range from textiles to pottery, encompassing a range of utilitarian and decorative pieces. Woolen fabrics are prominent, often dyed in various shades to attract buyers, while linen is available for those interested in lighter materials. Local potters produce earthenware featuring plain designs, with some exceptional pieces adorned with simple patterns that reflect the aesthetic preferences of the period. The market is also notable for the presence of metalwork, including tools, kitchenware, and occasionally ornamental ironwork. Blacksmiths provide essential goods such as horseshoes and nails, which are crucial for the daily operations of farming and construction, while metal trinkets make their way into the hands of buyers seeking decorative items. Lastly, one may encounter merchants dealing in imported goods, which, although less common, provide a glimpse into the wider trade networks of the era. Spices, silks, and exotic items from distant lands can sometimes be found, enticing buyers with promises of flavors, colors, and textures not typically available in the local market. These goods play a supplemental role within the broader economy of the medieval market, often relegated to the fringes, yet still significant in their contributions to the cultural exchange that marks the period. Social dynamics among market-goers in a medieval marketplace were characterized by a variety of interactions that unfolded over the course of the trading day. The marketplace itself served as an essential hub for exchanging goods, with individuals from different strata of society converging at various times. Merchants, often equipped with wares from distant lands, shouted their offerings while attempting to attract the attention of potential buyers. Often, these merchants would form small groups, negotiating prices among themselves in hushed tones, occasionally punctured by boisterous laughter or sharp disagreement. Among the customers, there existed a hierarchy based on wealth and social status. Nobles and well-to-do townsfolk moved with an air of authority, often receiving preferential treatment from vendors. The lower classes, however, usually lingered at the periphery of stalls, their eyes darting eagerly between the goods on display and the prices being quoted. This created a clear line of demarcation within the throng of people, as wealthier patrons tended to engage more actively in bargaining, whereas poorer customers often felt compelled to limit their inquiries, doubting whether they could afford the items on offer. Furthermore, the interactions presented a tapestry of relationships that varied from cordiality to outright animosity. Strangers might find fleeting connections over shared interests in specific goods, while others harbored long-standing resentments rooted in past dealings or community disputes. Gossip also played a pivotal role in shaping social interactions, as news of local happenings and personal dramas circulated among the crowd, linking individuals in webs of collective understanding or misinformation. Individuals often exchanged pleasantries with familiar faces, establishing a sense of community amidst the bustling environment. Amidst these dynamics, age also contributed to varied interactions. Younger market-goers displayed enthusiasm, often bursting into excited chatter and occasionally disrupting the placid flow of adult discourse. This juxtaposition of youthful exuberance against the backdrop of traditional market norms created a unique rhythm to the marketplace atmosphere, with older participants sometimes displaying a sense of impatience bordering on annoyance, particularly when the excitement of younger attendees overshadowed important negotiations or solemn transactions. As the hours passed and the day wore on, the intricate dance of social interaction continued to evolve. Even as vendors and customers exchanged goods for coins, the ongoing web of social dynamics remained a vital undercurrent weaving through the fabric of the marketplace, influencing interactions and decisions at every turn. On a particularly uneventful Tuesday in the year 1397, the village of Wellingbrook encountered an occurrence that would inadvertently precipitate the longest queue ever recorded in the annals of medieval markets. The weather that day was unremarkable, characterized by a mild temperature, overcast skies, and a gentle breeze that barely rustled the leaves of the nearby oak trees lining the cobblestone square where the market convened. It was on this day that an exotic merchant who had traveled from the distant lands of the Orient set up his stall, showcasing a variety of goods, including silks, spices, and other commodities as yet unseen by the local populace. As the villagers, drawn by curiosity, gathered around the stall, word began to spread through the town about the exotic items available for purchase. This information traveled slowly at first, but as more curious individuals ventured forth, the flow of people into the square increased steadily. Eventually, the crowd grew to a substantial size as individuals from not only Wellingbrook, but also neighboring villages made the journey to witness the spectacle. As the morning progressed, the crowd's anticipation escalated, resulting in a spontaneous and unorganized line forming in front of the merchant's stall. The merchant, noting the unusual interest in his wares, observed the queue with a sense of bemusement, fully aware of the implications such an assembly might have for his business that day. The line, initially consisting of just a handful of eager patrons, soon began to expand exponentially as villagers further and further down the street joined in, drawn by the spectacle of the gathering crowd. The queue in the medieval market was influenced by multiple key figures, the identities of whom are critical to understanding its formation and duration. One primary figure was Aldrich the Merchant, a well-known trader specializing in textiles. Aldrich had established himself at the market over several decades, building a reputation for quality and reliability. His stall often attracted substantial crowds, resulting in long lines that sometimes stretched beyond the confines of the marketplace. Historical records indicate that Aldrich implemented a primitive numbering system to manage the order of customers, a significant development in consumer organization. Another notable figure was Lady Isolde, a noblewoman who frequently visited the market to procure various goods for her household. Isolde's presence in the queue garnered attention, leading to an influx of onlookers who also sought to partake in the experience. Her insistence on purchasing artisan bread from a specific baker further extended the line as patrons waited in anticipation of her selections. Additionally, local children, often seen helping their parents with transactions, played a role in the queue's length. Their sometimes rowdy behavior contributed to the atmosphere, causing delays as merchants attended to both adult customers and young ones clamoring for treats. Each figure contributed uniquely to the queue's dynamics, with their interactions serving to elongate the temporal experience of waiting. As word of the burgeoning queue spread throughout the marketplace, various reactions emerged from the surrounding populace, each notable not in their fervor, but in their similarities. The townspeople, many of whom had grown accustomed to the rhythms of market life, viewed the line with a mixture of curiosity and indifference. Initially, the formation of the queue was met with mild intrigue. People paused briefly to observe the spectacle, noting the length and the peculiarities of those at the forefront. The initial patrons, convinced of the queue's purpose, exhibited signs of impatience as they awaited entry to the vendor's stall, offering a rare selection of spices. A few onlookers, unaccustomed to the sight of such a lengthy wait, remarked amongst themselves about the nature of human behavior, contrasting this queue with lesser queues they had previously encountered on market days. The discussions, however, lacked enthusiasm and pivoted instead into monotonous debates about the benefits of waiting in line, touching briefly on notions of fairness and the inevitable conclusion of all queues, the service of the last person. The vendors nearby, accustomed to customers milling about, regarded the line with detached interest, adjusting their wares and awaiting the inevitable conclusion of the prolonged wait. Some children ran through the streets, chasing one another, blissfully unaware of the queue's significance, which lingered heavily in the air. Meanwhile, older figures settled onto nearby benches, observing the queue as they engaged in their own transactions, treating the scene like a backdrop to their everyday lives. The sun continued its slow journey across the sky, casting shadows that trailed lengthily over the cobblestones, indicating the passage of time without any discernible change in the queue's dynamic. Each moment elapsed within the marketplace, marked only by the incremental shifting of patrons as they adjusted their positions in line, engendering a sense of stillness, punctuated by the occasional murmur of conversation. Ultimately, the queue remained a fixture of the market, an exemplar of the tedium that accompanied communal human activities. The resolute determination of those waiting revealed nothing of a dramatic nature. Rather, it reflected a collective submission to the mundane realities of life. Coins exchanged hands in small increments, and the air was filled with the sense of commerce, devoid of the urgency often associated with bustling trade. Indeed, the queue extended further than any previous observation would deem acceptable, chronicling a slow march of humanity toward an indeterminate end. The spectacle of the queue, woven seamlessly into the fabric of the medieval market, continued onward without interruption, signaling the unending nature of human patience, contrasted against the clock of everyday life. The quantification of the length of the queue that formed at the medieval market necessitates a methodical approach, incorporating various forms of measurement and estimations based on the available resources of that period. Initially, the queue comprised individuals standing in a single line, ostensibly waiting to access goods sold by merchants. Measurements could be taken using units prevalent in the medieval era such as feet and yards, or through lesser-known measures like the pace used by commoners, which approximated to a step of an average adult. A thorough assessment would require scholars on site to engage in systematic counting or pacing along the queue to establish its total length. The line's configuration occasionally varied, influenced by the terrain of the market and the spontaneous organization by the crowd. The presence of numerous individuals, estimated potentially in the hundreds or thousands, compounded the difficulty in maintaining an orderly semblance. One could further investigate repeated reconstructions of the queue to ascertain the average length over time. Additionally, historical context and environmental factors, such as seasonal fluctuations in market attendance, must be contemplated. Accounts of the queue might document the density, spreading outwards as members engaged in casual conversation, leading to varied estimates of the queue's total length during peak hours of activity. Each segment of the line could be delineated, providing a clearer understanding of the space it occupied relative to other market features and structures. The queue stretched across the marketplace, an unending line of individuals, each engaged in their own manner of waiting. Each person in the queue found themselves enveloped by the ambient sounds of market activity, the chatter of vendors hawking their wares, and the rustle of goods being exchanged. The scent of freshly baked bread mingled with the earthy notes of vegetables, creating an atmosphere rich in sensory experience, albeit dulled by the monotony of waiting. Participants varied widely. Some were elderly individuals leaning heavily on canes, while others were children clutching small toys, their energy palpable yet confined by the constraints of the line. A woman stood with a basket on her hip, glancing at her watch periodically as if time might bend to her will. Nearby, a man in a tattered cloak lounged against a post, idly watching the clouds drift by, his attention waning with each